Coming number 10, fake driving. Once transitioning from comedic actor to late night host, James had to come up with some new games that would keep his audience interested. The whole idea behind Carpool karaoke was that James and any special celebrity guests were going to sing while driving. It's a simple concept, but something that is at the very least relatable to most audiences, other than having a giant celebrity in your passenger seat, that is. Well, it turns out that the whole thing is a sham and a cheap way to trick their own audience. A tweet went viral showing that James Corden doesn't actually drive the vehicle during the show, but rather has it being pulled around on a trailer. In at number 9, early fame. James Corden revealed that he had to have therapy to stop being a brat after he became intoxicated by fame. Even as Gavin and Stacey co-star Rob Brydon had to step in and tell him off for his rude behavior while on set. Rob recalled saying, "Look, this is a bit awkward to say, but I'm just hearing these things about you and you've got to know that the way you behave has an effect on people." Corden's sisters also intervened according to his mother, and they would come in and say to James, "Don't be a d***head," which is bizarre because the whole reason he wrote this show for himself really is because he was sick and tired of people being rude to him about his own weight. In number 8, against his writers. When James Corden decided to do an Ask Me Anything on Reddit, it could not have backfired any worse. One of his producers named Jack Allison had made a tweet in regards to how poorly James had treated his writing staff, which was included in the litany of complaints made against the host. Jack tweeted, "I'd like to state once again for the record that I went to a WGA meeting for only late night writers, and James Corden showed up without any of his staffers to advocate for a lower pay grade for late night writers." Now James tried to refute his points, but honestly his Twitter replies aren't even worth sharing. He basically called his own producer a liar and stated that he cared about his writers while simultaneously arguing for lower pay at the Writers Guild of America meeting. In at number 7, Fight Club. Even though James Corden had an excellent opportunity to chat with Edward Norton, he ruined that chance by trying to do some weak comedic version of Fight Club, using his own writing staff. Right from the start you can tell that Ed doesn't want any part of this, and why would he? Fight Club was a great film, but it's one of the many that the actor had been a part of. Plus he was just really there to try to promote a new movie, so why waste time on something like this? Although James still isn't getting it until Norton tells him that there are better ways of expressing masculinity. All the guy wanted to do was talk about his film Motherless Brooklyn, which he not only starred in but also directed and wrote, but no, James just wanted a stupid Fight Club parody sketch. In at number 6, unrelatable. James Corden decided it was his duty to stand up for every overweight person in the world and defending their right to eat when Bill Maher said that we should bring back fat shaming. Judging by the way Corden responded to this clip, you would think that Bill called him out specifically. He didn't know. James is just that easily offended and has a bigger platform to cry on. The point Bill was trying to make was a comedic one that just missed the mark, but he was emphasizing that America needed to bring back shame. James tried to make this his champion moment of being the king of all that is good in this world, but started to lose people when he continuously made it about himself. He kept saying, "This hurt me because I wanted to be in movie roles but was too out of shape." His remarks hurt me because I was never accepted by society, but there he is sitting behind a late night show desk, no problem. Also, my humble opinion, if he didn't feel some shame about the way that he looked, James would have never been motivated enough to try to create his own show, Gavin and Stacey, which, as I mentioned earlier, was the basis for that show. He's trying too hard to be a fake idol by making his audience believe that he's offended by remarks that really had nothing to do with him. In number 5, distracted hosting. While hosting the Glamour Woman of the Year awards, James got himself into a now infamous argument with Patrick Stewart. Apparently while hosting he looked completely disinterested, and many felt that he gave off an attitude like he was better than the event. Plus, while recipients were accepting their awards, there was James just standing off to the side texting during a live award show. So when Patrick Stewart came on stage, he decided to confront James over his rude behavior, but because some people hadn't noticed what James was doing, Patrick seemed to be the rude one in this interaction. Although in retrospect, he was a hero ahead of his time. Take a look at this awkward exchange and keep in mind that this was 10 years ago.
Go on. No, seriously, go on.
Okay.
No, go on. You can see my belly, and we can all see you dying right now. Let's go for it. Here we go.
Patrick was simply trying to tell James not to text while people are accepting their awards, and instead of apologizing, he got in Patrick Stewart's face. Like, what was he gonna do? Fight him? Because he asked you to have some common sense? This was a strange one for sure. In number 4, political wedding. While filming a segment on his show called Fill Your Guts, James was asked a very specific question about what happened when he saw Ivanka Trump at a wedding. James admitted that he was very drunk and continuously harassed the president's daughter at this wedding. He repeatedly told her that she needs to do something, which isn't exactly the place nor the time. Plus, who does James Corden think he is? He wasn't born in America. He came there to make more money, so why does he feel the entitlement to trash the country that accepted him? Plus, the president's daughter while at a wedding is perhaps the biggest indicator that James has no self-awareness. In at number 3, shameful behavior. Right around the same time that people like Rose McGowan and other accusers started stepping up and calling out Harvey Weinstein, James thought it would be fun to just joke about it. Due to James Corden being a comedic actor and not a stand-up comedian, his jokes had absolutely no legs or timing. As a result, the audience mostly groaned uncomfortably about the extremely graphic and too-soon material that was clearly not well suited for a charity event. After the immense backlash, James tweeted, "To be clear, SA is no laughing matter. I was not trying to make light of Harvey's inexcusable behavior," adding, "But to shame him, the abusers, not his victims. I am truly sorry for anyone offended. That was never my intention." Oh, so now shaming is okay just as long as it's not happening to you. Got it. The Italian actor Asia Argento, who alleges that Weinstein SA'd her when she was only 21, tweeted a video of Corden's joke and added the caption, "Shame on this pig and everyone who grunted with him." In at number 2, hates his fans. Going back to that disastrous Reddit Ask Me Anything post that he made, we had countless people who were once fans of James claiming negative interactions with the host. One Redditor mentioned the time they saw Corden filming the UK game show A League of Their Own, and while other stars were polite and engaged with fans, Corden couldn't have cared less. It's a bit of a long post, so I'll just point out of the most egregious examples. The Redditor writes, "James came in for a brief moment, someone asked politely for a quick picture, he abruptly said later, and then left to his changing room for the rest of the night. Then they closed it off by saying, seeing him like that made me realize everything you see of his on TV is a complete persona and really his natural personality is just a complete self-entitled," and that's a word that I'm not allowed to say, but you get the point. It was the C word. Last but certainly not least on our number 1 spot, Happy Mother's Day. Then there was this crazy airplane story involving a woman and a baby. There's for sure no way to verify whether or not the story is true, but it does seem pretty much in line with what others have said about the late night show host. Apparently a woman with her crying baby was sitting next to James Corden on a flight, but to many people's surprise, James didn't complain at all. He simply put on his noise cancelling headphones and pulled a mask over his eyes, then turned away from the woman to sleep. However, when the plane landed, Corden remained in his seat as the woman with the baby struggled to open her overhead compartment. What makes this story even worse is that the woman then turned to James and asked him to at least hold the baby while she was getting the bags down. That woman was his wife, and that baby was his baby. Again, just rumors, just rumors.
Hello everyone, today we're going to be talking about James Corden and how it seems that nobody really likes him very much. He's probably best known for constantly appearing in movies and musicals like the Emoji Movie, the Cats film adaptation, and the Cinderella remake, and usually playing a comedic relief character that most people view as a total flop or cringe. The Late Late host is stepping down from his show, and it seems that people in the UK are worried about the fact that he is going to be moving from the United States back to Europe. They are so worried about it, in fact, that one person created a petition in an attempt to ban him from returning to the country. Change.org is a website where anyone can make a petition about just about anything. Some notable weird petitions that have been made on the website are ban the word moist, change the name of fire ants to spicy boys, ask President Obama to build a Death Star, and merge North Dakota and South Dakota into a new state called Megakota. So yeah, there is a lot of unique and bizarre petitions on this site. The one we're talking about today is called James Corden to Stay in the US. The description of the petition reads as follows. 8 years ago, James Corden left the UK for the US to work on The Late Late Show. Since then, we've had to collectively deal with the impact of the Tory government, Brexit, and COVID-19, but throughout there was that slight beacon of hope, the absence of James Corden. Though I will note they included a harsh and vulgar description of James. Look up the petition for yourself if you're curious about their colorful wording. It continued, but now he's leaving the Late Late Show and is returning to our British pastures. So I beg you, if you do one thing today, please, I implore you to sign this petition. The main reason for exiling him was listed as there not being enough cringe in this small country for him to induce. An alternative option other than just keeping him in the United States is to send him to an isolated island in Scotland to live on his own. And it's not just the maker of the petition that feels this way, as people in the comments appear to be in support of the cause. One commenter said, "Come on folks, He's used the USA and now he wants to return here and get some prime TV slot, telling us all how brave, ginge, and whinge we are. Well, I for one don't need that. And another added, of all the issues we've endured over the past years, this one hits home the most. This also isn't the first time that James Corden has been the center of a petition. Due to his frequent appearances in musicals, a petition was created to ban the host from appearing in the Wicked adaptation. How many people signed this petition, you might ask? It was over 100,000. Yeah, clearly Corden doesn't really have the greatest reputation these days. Commenters on that specific movement saying things like, James Corden is the worst and ruins every movie musical he's in. I'm literally begging, don't let him anywhere near Wicked. And he's awesome as a talk show host, he is funny when the occasion calls for it, but Corden just plays himself when it comes to acting. In fact, he has no acting skills whatsoever. He ruined the Cats movie, so please keep him away from Wicked. In my opinion, the Cats movie existing ruined the Cats movie, but the sentiment still stands. Another reason people might have for wanting to keep James Corden out of their country is due to an announcement he made a few months ago about the fact that he only washes his hair every 2 months. When people in Los Angeles were being asked to cut down the time of their showers due to a water shortage, Corden said, I'm in and out in 3 or 4 minutes. I use soap but I don't wash my hair. I wash it every 2 months. That is a true story. I do not think we are nasty. While it was recommended to take shorter showers, most people in the area still averaged around 10 minutes per shower. He said, what are you doing for 10 minutes? How long does it take? I'm trying to think what I would do in there for 10 minutes. I don't know, James, maybe wash yourself? He's not the only celebrity to ever admit to having less than average hygiene practices. Jake Gyllenhaal famously went viral for saying that he doesn't find bathing that important and finds himself doing it less and less. I guess when you're famous, you don't worry as much about how you smell. With 1 season left of The Late Late Show before James Corden steps down and returns to the UK with his family, it'll be a while before we see if anyone actually tries to stop him from getting in.
James Corden just messed with the wrong fan base, and he is now getting cancelled because of it, along with the Google rating for his show plunging to 1.2 stars out of 5. I'm Mackenzie, and let's get into the details. Also, make sure to subscribe if you're new here. If you didn't already know, K-pop group BTS has the most loyal fan base in the world, and they call themselves ARMY. And if you've been on Twitter for more than 5 minutes, I'm confident that you've seen a BTS fan cam at some point. So everyone in the industry knows not to say anything bad about BTS, or you will be sorry. That's been the case with the host of The Late Late Show, James Corden, after he mocked BTS's fan base. On the September 20th episode of his show, Corden made a point to speak about the group's attendance at the United Nations General Assembly that's currently taking place in New York City. The UN General Debate opened with a pre-recorded performance from the band, who then delivered a speech where they spoke about sustainable development, which is obviously a very high honor. But James Corden decided to mock their speech on his show, saying that the UN kicked off that morning and there was some, quote, pretty unusual visitors, referring to BTS. Then he added that the UN had no choice but to take them seriously and complimented the group on having one of the largest fan bases in the world. But then he got in trouble when he added, quote, historic moment, it actually marks the first time that 15-year-old girls everywhere found themselves wishing that they were Secretary General Antonio Guterres. Basically mocking the fact that the group's fan base consists of teenage girls. But of course, the BTS fanbase did not take this lightly, and they shared their disappointment on Twitter. One tweet read, quote, as a teenage girl myself, I just want to take a moment to say, leave us alone. Stop using my gender and age as a way of mocking other people and what they do. Another user pointed out that in the wake of the comments, the Google ratings for Corden's talk show had dropped from 4.2 to 2.6. And obviously the ARMY is responsible. As of now, the show's rating has dropped even further, and it's currently sitting at 1.2. Although there were some fans that actually tried to defend Corden. This fan wrote a long notes app essay breaking down his comments and trying to give Corden the benefit of the doubt so the ARMY would stop attacking him, but the fans did not appreciate this and said that Corden should have done a better job at choosing his words wisely. The Twitter page for The Late Late Show has since taken down the video featuring the controversial comments, but obviously the ARMY had already screen recorded it, and taking down the clip is not going to stop the hate train. I did also want to note that this is not the first time the group has appeared at the UN, and in 2018 BTS visited the UN to help UNICEF promote Generation Unlimited, which is a campaign dedicated to educating young people. So even though Corden claimed it was unusual, it's actually not unusual for the group to use their influence for the good of the world, and that is why we stand Do Not Come From Me BTS ARMY. I like them a lot.
James Corden has announced that he will be quitting The Late Late Show after extending his contract for the CBS Late Night series for just one more year, which means that he will most likely be leaving around summer 2023. James will have hosted the show for 8.5 years by the time that he leaves, which is a big accomplishment. In a statement to Deadline, he told them, "It's been a really hard decision to leave because I'm so immensely proud of the show. I'm thrilled to be extending for a year. I always thought I'd do it for 5 years and then leave, and then I stayed on. I've really been thinking about it for a long time, thinking whether there might be one more adventure." Prior to taking over the show, Craig Ferguson had hosted the show for 9 years and then passed it over to James on March 23, 2015. For many, the Gavin and Stacey co-creator was a bit of a surprise choice, but even so, he was still able to reinvigorate the 12:30 a.m. time slot on CBS. Whether you like him or not, he did bring a lot of attention to the show. Corden and his team created several viral segments such as Carpool Karaoke, Drop the Mic, Spill Your Guts, and Crosswalk Musical. I'm a big numbers guy though, because rarely do numbers live. For example, his Carpool Karaoke episode with Adele has been viewed more than 250 million times on YouTube, and his episode with One Direction has garnered around 189 million views as well. The Late Late Show YouTube page alone has had nearly 10 billion views and has more than 27 million subscribers, making it the second highest among the other late night shows. The CBS chiefs, including President and CEO George Cheeks, were all very impressed by Corden and even offered him a variety of deals, which included a 3-year extension, a 2-year extension, and a rolling 1-year deal before he finally made his decision. Corden went on to say, "My bosses here at CBS have been incredibly supportive and extraordinarily patient with me while I made this decision." When talking about his decision to leave the show in 2023, Mr. Cheeks said, "7 years ago, James Corden came to the US and took television by storm with huge creative and comedic swings that resonated in a big way with viewers on air and online. From Crosswalk the Musical to the legendary Carpool Karaoke and every unique comedy segment he introduced, James has truly reimagined many elements of the late night format. He has also been the consummate network showman, entertaining audiences from his nightly perch at Television City, as well as the Tony and Grammy stage. In my 2 years at CBS, I've had the privilege to see James's creative genius up close and experience his valuable partnership with CBS, both as a performer and a producer. We wish he could stay longer, but we are very proud he made CBS his American home and that this partnership will extend one more season on The Late Late Show." Corden deciding to leave the show also marks the second high-profile changeover in late-night television. Conan O'Brien recently left late night behind after a long career, and even Jimmy Kimmel's future with his show is uncertain. The comedian has publicly discussed many times whether or not he wanted to continue hosting his show on ABC. It will be very interesting though to see who CBS decides to replace James Corden with. Over the last few years, there has been speculation about James leaving and returning to the UK. In response to those earlier rumors, James told Deadline at the time, "It's something we think about and we talk about a lot, but we haven't really made a decision on that yet. That's the life side of things which we'll figure out. I love living here. I love everything it's given, my family, and I have never taken this incredible adventure for granted. Every day I drive down Sunset to work, and I just think I'm from High Wycombe." For sure though, there are other things that I'm sure Corden wants to do with his career. He has already used the fame that he has gained from the show to land big roles in films such as Peter Rabbit, Cats, and The Prom, where he received his first Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor, and hosting HBO Max's Friends: The Reunion. He is also a partner in Fullwell 73, the production company responsible for Hulu's The Kardashians and Cinderella, and stars alongside Sally Hawkins in Amazon's upcoming comedy drama series called Mammals. All in all, Corden said that working on The Late Late Show was the most joyous working environment and said of the staff, "Out of respect for all the staff, I want to tell them that now and say that we can really go into this last year with absolute enthusiasm and passion and love. These shows are not built by one person. I'm very fortunate I get to work with some people whose talents and gifts just blow my mind."